away from Danily Dew.
You see behind her. That's right, DJ is live with Coach Kyle Whittingham up at the U and is here now with a preview of the Coach's Show.
Tonight, the coach takes a look at the win over Northern Arizona. Some of the guys he thought played really well. He'll spotlight those guys, and we'll look ahead to the Battle of the Brothers. They're going to Logan next week. Stay with us. The Coach's Show is coming up right here on KJazz. And our KUTV.com poll question, who will win next week's games? BYU is at Boston College. Utah's at Utah State. You like the Utes and the Cougars or the Utes and BC? The Aggies and Cougars or the Aggies and BC? Log on to KUTV.com. Cast your vote. We'll have the answer for you tonight on Talkin' Sports at 10:30 over on KUTV2. The Coach is up next.
Zions Bank.
The Zions Bank Coaches Show with Kyle Whittingham starts now.
Good evening. Welcome into the Coach's Show. We're here every Sunday night, 9:30 on KJazz. The Utes getting the win over Northern Arizona, even in their schedule at 1-1. They are getting ready to head to Utah State next week for the third game. Feel a little better?
A little better this week, yeah.
Okay. Let's early in the game, I saw your halftime interview in the TV broadcast. You weren't exactly thrilled with the opening minutes of the game. Was there a little hangover? Were the guys not quite ready to go? What do you think the problem was early? I know you went down scored. They had a quick lead early.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we started slowly, and the most disappointing thing was the undisciplined penalties. You know, we had 3 or 4 personal fouls early on, an offside, some things that just we generally don't do. And so that combined with the fact that we had a 3 and out to start offensively, and they moved the ball down and scored on their second or third drive was the downside, but then we picked it up and played solid football the rest of the way.
Do you get the guys together on the sideline and say something at that point, or they kind of know what the deal is and you don't? How do you handle that?
We talked to them a little bit, but they know the deal. This is a veteran crew. They know that no need to panic or anything like that. Just get executing and away we go.
So what got you guys going? What got that first TD drive that tied it up at 7? What was the key in your mind?
Well, I think the catch by Freddie Brown. I think that was a great effort by Freddie, and we had several great catches by the wideouts. I thought they stepped it up and definitely performed much better than we did in week 1, all the way around, catching the ball, blocking, and the whole deal. So I think that was probably the biggest factor is some of the catches those wideouts were making. And then we got the ground game going, and Rat was much sharper than he was in week 1. And defensively, other than that one drive that ended in a touchdown, we pitched a shutout. So overall, it was a positive game.
Brett Ratliff finishes 17 of 27, 299 yards. He throws for 3 scores and has no interceptions. How much of that was him being better? How much of that was the receivers? You said after the UCLA game, they had a few drops. How do you look at that performance?
I think it was a combination of the two. I think Brett was, no question, he was sharper in where he was throwing the ball and going through his read progression, and the receivers were running better routes and catching the ball better, and that combination just made for a better outing, and no turnovers. It doesn't matter who if you're playing against air, not to turn the ball over at all is a positive.
Pretty good catch in the end zone on the tip ball by Marquise Wilson to focus on that, drag the feet.
Yeah, we had 3 or 4 just outstanding catches. Braden made a couple, and Marquise and Freddie Brown and Dave Richards. Dave Richards got 2 balls that were just outstanding.
All right, you also mentioned the running game. Mike Liddy, 10 carries, 68 yards. He had the score, and he broke a long one, a 45-yarder.
He did. Him and Darryl Poston, like we knew going into the season, were going to be tailback by committee, and they're both yards per carry. I think they were both over 6 yards a carry this past game, and we established the run game fairly early, and that's until one of the two separates himself from the other. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be a 1-2 punch.
Since I've been doing this Coach's Show the last year and a half, I've been watching more Coach's Show around the country, and I noticed that they don't generally talk about the punters and kickers all that much. But we have to keep bringing Louis Sakota up. You didn't ask a lot of him yesterday, but he made the field goal, made the PATs, and a 72-yard punt.
Yeah, he was 6 for 6 on his PATs and hit the 1 field goal that we asked him to kick, and the punt, it was actually not a great kick. I mean, it was a little bit short and a little low as far as hang time. That thing rolled forever and did a good job surrounding it there at the end. You can see that, and we netted 62 yards a punt yesterday, which that's off the charts.
All right, we're going to take a look at the Sinclair schedule now. The Utes are going to Utah State next week. Actually, you've got back-to-back road games. You're starting 3 of the first 4 on the road. You're going to Utah State and San Diego State. Then you're coming home for, I think, games that the fans are really anticipating, with Boise State on a Saturday and TCU on a short week, a Thursday night game. We haven't been able to see the Aggies this year. They haven't been on TV. You've probably got some film. You're probably getting more. How many games have you seen now? Have you seen?
We've got all of last season, and we got the 2 they've played this year.
So what's the difference between the Aggies this year and when you saw them last year?
A little more physicality to their run game offensively. You know, a little more 2 tight end sets, 2 back sets than what we saw last year. And defensively, they're very sound, you know, an even front and just playing sound football.
The wide receivers, pretty good. They kind of established themselves last year with Robinson and Pennyman.
Yep, both of them are back, and you know, saw they had a few catches in the Arkansas game, and you know, the quarterback is very athletic, and so you know they got a nice football team.
Marcus Cross ran for more than 100 yards. Now they were at Wyoming, they're at Arkansas. What style is he? Is he between the tackles, just banging away on guys? Has he got some speed if he gets a little crack?
Yeah, you know, I haven't had a chance to study their offense all that much. I've been focusing on special teams and defense, but I know he's a powerful runner, and you know, he's a, you know, JC, high accolades coming out of JC.
You've really made the transition to head coach. You don't go straight and watch the other team's offense. Old habits die hard, but they finally die.
Well, special teams is where I start every week, you know, now, since I've been the head coach. And so that's my first and foremost, you know, thing that I look at, and then just work my way through the whole deal.
Okay, you always bring a guest down. Braden Godfrey this week. Why you always have a little angle for why you make the choice.
Well, he made a couple circus catches, one big catch in the first half, and then a touchdown catch in the second half that I thought was outstanding. And Braden's one of those 6 or 7 receivers I've been bragging about for a long time now, and he had a chance to get underway on Saturday. He didn't get to play a whole bunch at UCLA. I think he only had 4 reps, so got a chance to play and made the most of it.
How you feeling after that game?
Good, pretty good. Just glad to get in there.
You, what's a memory you take from that game?
Well, the touchdown for one, and then unfortunately, you know, landed bad on my ankle. But it was my first touchdown here and my first big, you know, D1 single-A touchdown. So.
Now we saw you taken off the field after that, so I was wondering if you were able to fully enjoy that one or not.
Yeah, you know, it would have been great to get up and celebrate with the guys, but you know, the guys came over and started getting around me, and I just told them, you know, don't pick me up, don't pick me up. So my ankle was on fire and it was bothering me. So.
How does it feel today?
I'm still a little bit sore today, but it should be good in the next few days. So.
Not planning on missing any games?
We'll see about this weekend. Probably not this weekend, but hopefully we'll be back for San Diego.
Okay. What was the mood of the team? How different was this ball game compared to where you guys were a week ago?
We came out with passion. You know, we came out a little bit flat against UCLA, it seemed, and I don't think we were quite ready for it. As far as, like, you know, being all hyped up for the game or whatever. And you know, Coach talked about passion all week long and come out there and show passion. And so we came out and we got hyped up for the game, and we were just ready to roll. And
now, Kyle said during the week that he wanted the receivers to block more, that if you were going to be a receiver at Utah, regardless of which receiver position you play, you have to block. When you're getting, quote-unquote, asked to block, how does that go exactly?
Well, I mean, part of being a receiver is blocking, and as well as catching the ball. I mean, you gotta do both ends. So he was right. We struggled with blocks, and so we worked on that in practice this week, and we came out and we blocked a lot better this week. So. You
like the way it looked on film?
Much better. Not where we need to be yet, but it was a step in the right direction.
All right. Well, good luck with the ankle and the rehab, and look forward to seeing you out there. And congratulations on the score.
Thank you.
All right, Braden Godfrey joined us here on the Coaches Show. We'll be back with the play of the game, a little more with the coach. Stay with us here on KJazz.
Right here on KJazz. It's your TV for USU football.
Play action, shot at the end zone, tipped away, caught in the back. Is it good? Yes, touchdown, Marquise Wilson.
Utes play of the day, Marquise Wilson. The deflection, concentrates, drags the toes, hauls it in, touchdown. That's the Utes play of the game. Crowd loving that one. You got to like your crowd first on the road, now at home.
Great crowd, and I can't say enough about the Muss. I mean, we had 5,000 plus students standing on their feet the entire game. I'm telling you, that's turning into maybe the best student section in the country, certainly one of the top.
Getting a little home field advantage out of that.
No question about it. I thank those guys, and it's just huge to have those guys doing what they do for us.
Be interesting to see how many Ute fans are up in Logan. It's the Utes and the Aggies next Saturday, and we'll wrap it up for you right here on KJazz next Sunday night, 9:30 with the coach. And of course, you'll see the game next Saturday right here on KJazz as well. Dan Sheldon's back in a moment. Stay with us.
You've been a player's wife, a coach's wife, a player's mom, and now a coach's mom. How has that gone over the years, and how do you get ready for a game now?
Now I want to be a player. I've done it all except that.
Do you get nervous when you know a game's coming up for Kyle as a mom?
Actually, I've been more nervous in this situation than all my life. That head coaching job is a lot of pressure.
It really is.
And they, you know, you win and you're okay. But if you don't win, I don't want to turn that radio on.
Yeah, spoken with true wisdom and a lot of experience. Okay, if you could play a position, what position would it be now?
Oh, let me see. I think I like those line guys with the long hair.
She wants to be on the D line with the Polynesian crew here for the University of Utah. But a great story, guys. Nancy Whittingham, I actually lived with the Whittinghams for a year up at their home, and Nancy and Fred were gracious. Fred, one of my heroes, they were wonderful.
And Blaine vacuumed every day.
That's because Kyle and Carrie were going to beat the heck out of me if I didn't. So anyhow, this is a great lady and a great football family and a great legacy. I know that Kyle's football idol and his coaching idol was his father, Fred Whittingham. I've talked to Kyle many times. He said that this woman's great husband, Fred, was the greatest football mind that he ever knew, and so he's patterned his coaching style after his dad, the great Fred Whittingham.
I think he comes around still, Blaine.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Watching over Kyle here on the field.
Stay away. He can't stay away.
Nancy, thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Glad
it's great to see you.
Talk to you, Blaine. Glad. Yeah, I can't believe it's been, what, 20 years since you were in our house?
Yeah, it's been a long time. We watched a lot of football games together. Thanks, Nancy.
Great story, Blaine. That was wonderful. Blaine.
In our house?
Yeah, it's been a long time. We watched a lot of football games together. Thanks, Nancy.
Great story, Blaine. That was wonderful. Blaine Fowler vacuuming every day. That doesn't surprise me.
I can't see that.
You can't?
I can't see that.
Oh, I can see him vacuuming and dusting.
Every day?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you may be
right. Great story.
I tell you, I've been really impressed. You know, we spent some time with both coaching staffs. I was just really impressed by Kyle Whittingham and his staff. You know, you do enough of these interviews, and you know, I've been around the Big 12 for a long time and now the Mountain West, and you start to get a sense for the type of people that you're dealing with, the type of people, the type of atmosphere. And I was just really impressed by Kyle Whittingham, the things he talked about, the types of people he recruited, his openness about what he's all about, what his program is about. Really enjoyed our time with him.
You know, the other interesting component is Kyle coached on the defensive staff when his dad was defensive coordinator under Ron McBride, and then when his father left to take a job in the NFL, Kyle got the defensive coordinator job that he kept until he was promoted to head coach 2 years ago when Urban Meyer, they had the wonderful run, and Urban Meyer took the job down in Florida. But that was good. Kyle and Blaine living together down at BYU. And Kyle was really torn in the sense that, you know, he was, when that position came open, BYU's head coaching job was open as well. And so do you go back home where you played? Do you stay here where you've made a new home? Decided to stay with the University of Utah. And tell you what, this is a wonderful program, and the facilities, the coaches, the players, this is first-class operation.
It is. And if you've been around college football as long as we have, and you see in as many stadiums and talk to as many coaches, I can promise you there's not a better school to go to in terms of your facilities and your coaches and the types of things you can get done here on this campus. What a great atmosphere to go to school.
Big hit on that play. Moko Fisi, junior out of Hawaii, laying a lick. And you know, the These kids who spend all the time in practice, and they're the Kodaks, and they give everybody the look, and you got to run through, and you hold the bag, and you're the tackling dummy, and you run the scout team, and you get out there playing the opponent. Hey, this is as good as it gets. I'm under the lights. I may not see the field again. I don't know when.
No,
I'm going to get out there and hit somebody.
You're right. That's the thing, you know.
Kurt Sweeney, nice catch near the first down. Spun down a yard short.
You think you're doing the right thing by you know, getting your backups and your reserves in the ball game, and you know, on offense, if your guys go out there and put another touchdown on the board, you know, you can't very well tell a guy that's been working all year or 2 years and the offensive side of the ball, you know, don't go out there and do anything, you know, just take a fall.
Quick snap. Cretion dives near the first down marker. We'll check the spot. That might be it's 4th down. They had 2 yards to go.
I think they got it.
He did. So they'll move the chains.
I'll tell you, Rich, I'm really interested in seeing the way that this Mountain West Conference, you know, shakes out. You know, we're starting to see the different teams in Colorado State, and now we've seen Utah. I saw TCU last week. I think this is going to be a much tighter race than what a lot of people thought early in the season.
TCU beat Baylor last week. Nice snap. Cretion pulls it down and then runs forward. Nice gain. Clock continues to move.
You know, the biggest thing about that win, you know, people say, well, TCU, who cares? They beat Baylor. Who's Baylor? Well, you know, Baylor's a much different football team under Guy Morse. They're very physical. They also recruit well, and they should have beat both Texas A&M and Oklahoma last year. So it's not. So I think TCU is going to be another good football team as well.
Those thought processes die hard. Alex Henderson, the ball carry, and what's a good program and what's not. So many times people need to see an entire season plus a bowl game and a victory in that to change their perception of a program.
And the prime example of that's Utah.
Absolutely.
Utah's a BCS team 2 years ago, and people, you know, I live out in Texas and have a lot of friends and family to the east, and I remember everybody calling and saying, Utah, who's this Utah team? You know, and you got to sit there and walk it through it. But you're right, it's, you know, it takes a while to establish that brand identity out in the marketplace.
3rd down and 6. Penalty markers down. Northern Arizona just 2 for 10 on 3rd down tonight.
Snap, false start. Offense number 67. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
I think 3rd down a little bit longer for the Lumberjacks. Northern Arizona this week. It'd be fun to keep one eye on the Big Sky race and see how that shapes out. Anytime you cover a team, you just end up with a vested interest to read the sports page every Sunday or check the ticker on Saturday and see how they did. Ball on the turf. Lumberjacks going the wrong way.
I can tell you one team, I'm going to keep an eye on that Portland State team we saw last week. Those guys were big. I mean, I walked out there before the game and I looked at I came up and told you. I mean, I said, look, these guys, this looks like a Big Ten offensive line. It looks like, you know, a bunch of fat guys in November with snow on the, you know, that's the way that offensive line looked. I came up to you and said, I can't believe this thing. So whoever plays, you know, Portland State in the Big Sky is going to have their hands full.
Weddle at the 10. Madrid on to punt. High punt. Weddle underneath it, and the sure-handed one secures it at the 18-yard line. 3:59 to go, just a 27-yard punt. You're watching the Mountain.
Locally grown vine-ripe tomatoes. There's nothing more refreshing. Even better, because these growers and their families live and work here in the community, like your Sinclair station. We're a family-owned business operated by a family, a part of the community. And just like farm fresh produce, Sinclair's homegrown quality is refueling America.
Sinclair, we're about as American as it gets.
When the clock hits 0, the action continues on the Mountain with Postgame Live. It's the most comprehensive Mountain West football post-game coverage. We'll break down all the action on the field, bringing you every highlight and in-depth post-game analysis. Plus, the Mountain keeps you covered with all the reaction after the game, with live reports on the post-game press conference and exclusive interviews with coaches and players. For the best Mountain West football coverage after the game, it's Post-Game Live, only on the Mountain West Sports Network. The Mountain Cap is your weekly wrap-up of everything happening in Mountain West sports.
Well, this certainly was a huge week for the Mountain West Conference.
Join Courtney George and Marius Payton as they bring you more than just the scores, delivering all the highlights.
Unbelievable play.
Exclusive reaction from coaches and players.
It's time to go live out to the press conference.
Expert analysis of all the games.
It was the D that stepped it up today.
It's the most comprehensive coverage of all the weekend's action in the Mountain West. The Mountain Cap, tonight at 11 on the Mountain.
Utah in command, going to pick up their first win of the year thanks to Brett Ratliff, tonight's starting quarterback. He played well. He's our Wells Fargo student athlete of the ball game. 3 touchdowns, big number over there. No interceptions and just a yard short of the magic 300 mark.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is the no turnovers. The thing he wanted to walk away with in this ball game is he wanted to be perfect in terms of no turnovers, make the right decisions with the football, get more comfortable, get the timing and the rhythm down with your wide receivers. And I think they accomplished all that tonight against Northern Arizona.
Junior college transfer out of Chico, California, filled in for the injured
5-yard penalty, still first down.
And Brian Johnson hurt his knee last year's starter. Ratliff came in, beat BYU, then dominant victory 38-10 over Georgia Tech in the Emerald Bowl. And everybody just assumes you come in and make it look so easy that you should just pick right up and you should never have a setback, and that's just the way it goes, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. And he's a good one. He's going to have a good year, but he really seemed to find his crispness and his rhythm as the game wore on tonight.
No, he did, and that's the challenge as a quarterback is, you get your first 2 starts. Your first start, you beat, an arch rival in overtime in BYU, and if that's not big enough, then you go shred Georgia Tech in a bowl game. In those 2 starts, he had 621 yards and 8 touchdowns. So that kind of becomes the bar. And then, early this season, everybody, especially last week, was going, what's wrong with Brett Ratliff? And we can't call the plays. And and I think you saw that Ratliff came up today and stepped out today and really started to get in sync with the rest of his team. In the first half, he was 6 of 12 for 113, and back half of this game, he's been 8 for 10 for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And you could just sense him starting to get it as R.J. Stanford tries to churn forward for some positive yardage and pick up the first down. And you could just sense all those passes and the timing parts that were a step or 2 off or a half a second off. They really started to click in the second half.
Yeah, you know what? That's not always the quarterback as
exactly.
Well. Some people always say, oh, the quarterback missed that route. He can't. He's not being accurate or whatever, but that's not always the quarterback. That's part of going through the process with your wide receivers. It's one thing, Rich, to spend a bunch of time together during 2-a-days in camp. It's another thing when you put your game uniform on, because the speed of the game is much faster than what you'll ever see in practice. You can't simulate that.
Well, that's one thing you hear from a lot of people as Stanford again over the right side gets up near the 40, is that you can run it and practice it all you want, but it's never going to look just like it does in practice or on the grease board. It just doesn't look like that in the game.
And you want to know the biggest example of that relative to this conference is the Air Force Academy.
Very true.
Everybody says, Air Force, they're going to be a mid-level team. And, well, I can tell you can't simulate an option football team in 3 days. And it's also hard to prepare for an offense like Utah in 3 days as well.
Kyle Whittingham, the former BYU linebacker from 78 to 81, looking on. You're going to enjoy the fact they've scored on their last 7 possessions and now content to grind this one out on the ground. Good win in the books, and here on the Mount, we don't just cover college football, so we would be remiss if we didn't mention that the volleyball team here at the U and the women's soccer program as well, both in the top 25 here at Utah, and fall sports season well underway. School is back in session. On the road next week for the Utes at Utah State. And then on the 23rd of September. Mountain West Conference opener at San Diego State. We'll have that one for you here on the Mountain. Stanford again bouncing around. They lost a hat. So we're under a minute. I think Northern Arizona, they're going to be 0-2 after tonight. They played very well down in Tempe. They gave it a very good effort again here tonight. Just outmanned and don't quite have the firepower to keep up with some of the bigger schools.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that Northern Arizona got what they wanted out of this game as well, besides the $240,000 payday, which isn't bad as a smaller school. But think about the experience that you picked up. They're not going to see this level of competition the rest of the year. And this makes you a better football team when you can go out and play these types of games.
Stanford almost broke out of the pile. Went the distance. Brandon Anthony, the senior out of Oceanside, number 13, holding on for dear life, saying, you know what, I think 45's enough for you fellas. Let's call it good. Senior quarterback, Jason Murrieta, has some good weapons. Alex Watson, Kenny Mahone. Jerome Sowers and company like to find a little bit better running game instead of just having to do everything through the air.
The biggest thing at that level, Rich, the 1-2A level, is the offense and defensive linemen. You can go out and find kids that can run, but it's the linemen that they have trouble with.
College football on the Mountain is brought to you by Dodge. Introducing the newest ride from Dodge, the all-new Caliber. It's anything but cute. By Sinclair Oil, as American as it gets. By Sonic, it's not just good, it's Sonic good. And by Wells Fargo, the next stage. Well, the officials moved it back, and now they'll start the clock, and this ball game is officially in the books. A Utah victory, 45-7. Whittingham didn't like the way this one started. He will not like the penalties, but there are a number of positives, and for Jerome Sauer and company, I think they can take a trip back to Flagstaff, focus on one last non-conference game, try to win a Big Sky championship.
Yeah, and I think Utah accomplished what they wanted to. The biggest thing that I saw here is I think they found a running back in Daryl Poston, and I also like the fact that their offense started to click in the second half. It's all about timing. It's all about momentum in college football, and I think at this point in time, Utah is starting to click, and this offense is starting to roll forward.
Invite you to join us next Saturday, Boise State. We'll go to the high plains of Wyoming, and we will go down to Albuquerque, New Mexico, as the Missouri Tigers come calling to the New Mexico Lobos. For my partners, John Berger and Blaine Fowler, I'm Rich Cellini. We thank you for watching Mountain West Conference football here on the Mountain. Postgame Live is coming up next.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the studios of the Mountain. You are watching Post Game Live, and what a big day for the Mountain West Conference. Alongside Courtney George and Mike Evans, I am Marius Payton.
Yeah, a couple of Mountain West Conference teams taking some BCS schools to the wire. We'll have those highlights later in the show. But first, time to break down the Utes and the Lumberjacks after UCLA sent Utah back to Salt Lake with a big L last week. They've got to be thrilled, but they now have a big W. They came into the season ranked 3rd in the Mountain in the preseason polls. Did they play like one?
They certainly did once they got off to a slow start, an undisciplined start, really. Maybe they were just angry after the way they played in the last game against UCLA. But you look at the numbers, 490 yards of total offense. That's the type of offense you're used to seeing from a Utah team.
That's like whack numbers from back in the day, 490 yards of offense.
They can have some flashbacks. They're loud.
Yeah, all right. But take us, I mean, they didn't start off like they wanted to.
Right.
A lot of bad penalties, and that comes over from, you know, the first game of the season.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit angry after the way that they played against UCLA, and they came out, they had a chance to get close to the quarterback, Marietta, and I think getting close to the quarterback, they wanted to get something going and maybe get into his head a little bit. Some undisciplined and flat out really dumb penalties early on. You had on a punt return, you have the face mask, and then we also saw a couple of roughing the passer penalties. This one right here actually wiped out an incompletion.
Frustration in a team sometimes brings out over-aggressive
Sure,
penalties,
over-aggressive. Here you got a little bit of a
Right there.
clothesline, and that ultimately led to a Northern Arizona touchdown as the drive was able to be kept alive because of the roughing the passer penalties and a nice little bubble screen here, catching Utah coming upfield. They turned into a touchdown. But that was the high water mark, if you will, for Northern Arizona, because after that it was all downhill.
45 unanswered points. 45 unanswered points. Last week, they would have killed for even half of that.
And they got started thanks to Brett Ratliff as he got going after a slow start. He came out throwing the football. Couple of gorgeous connections here. First of all, with Brandon Godfrey, 31 yards up the left sideline. Nice diving catch, laying out to get that one. Followed that up with a pass downtown to Freddie Brown, 34 yards to the Lumberjacks 2. And then it was Daryl Poston capping it off, waltzing untouched into the end zone. That tied the game up at 7, and they would go on and get 2 more scores, 17-7 at the half, and you got the sense that they were in control of the game at that point.
Let's talk about Ratliff, because he seemed like, I mean, a different quarterback than the first game they played. Led him to 7 scores in the last 7 possessions. That's pretty good.
And you look at his performance in the second half, and he just picked right up where he left off at the end of the first half. And 3 scoring drives, 3 touchdown passes for Ratliff in the second half as he was able to start looking down the field and connecting. Great catch there by Godfrey. Ended up getting hurt, tweaked the ankle a little bit on that play. He should be okay. Downfield again, long passing game. Ratliff ended up finishing 17 of 27 for 300 yards. And as we talked about when we first saw the stats of this game, big bounce back game for the Utes offenses as they go from just, 287 yards last week against UCLA to 490 tonight against Northern Arizona.
Now, they lost a big guy, a 1,000-yard rusher last year in Quentin Gunther. And let me tell you, they didn't think for sure that they'd be able to fill those shoes. Instead, they went to, basically receivers by committee. It looks like it's working.
Well, they've got Mike Liddy, and they've got Daryl Poston. They've got all those talented wide receivers, and they've got the philosophy. Kyle Whittingham picking up where Urban Meyer left off. They know how to put together an offense that's going to be able to just grab huge chunks of yardage, lots of points. I think what we saw last week against UCLA was a bit of an aberration. This is an offense that is going to continue to put up big numbers as they go along throughout the Mountain West Conference season. So I don't think you have to be too concerned about this offense. They're going to produce.
Well, I know Mike Liddy had a great game last week, actually. Even though they lost, Coach came out and said, you know what, he was a bright, shining star. He had like 96 yards. It wasn't an amazing game, a great game, but he showed potential that he could do the job. He can't fill the entire shoes. He's not going to have 1,000 yards in a season, but he's doing his part, and that's all they asked of him.
We're seeing some 1AA teams reach up and pull off some upsets, but this is what the idea was when you schedule a 1AA team, is to get some confidence, to get out, to put up some big numbers against an inferior opponent and get feeling good about yourself after a performance like this. They certainly escaped any type of upset bug. They won convincingly, and they gained enough confidence offensively and defensively that they'll be able to take it into their next game.
One quick question. Utah for real?
I think they're for real, and we talked about this before the game. Last year was a difficult season. You come off the amazing season with Urban Meyer. You go undefeated. You finish 4th in the country. You had to expect with a brand new coach that it was going to be a bit of a transition year last year. This is the year that I think they're really starting to move forward with almost kind of a clean slate. Utah's for real.
All right. Now after the game, our Blaine Fowler caught up with winning coach, Utah's Kyle Whittingham.
We're here with the winning coach from Utah, Coach Kyle Whittingham. Kyle, first of all, your general assessment of the game.
Started slow. Was a little bit sloppy early on, especially with some of those penalties, but cleaned things up as the game went on. Played the second half like we should have played, in the first half. But receiver made some plays. Running backs ran hard. Defense played sound. So overall, it was a good win for us.
Yesterday when we talked, you said that you needed to have better execution than you had at UCLA, and that you also needed to have more passion. Did you see that tonight?
I think we did. I think the passion part of it for certain. We'll have to check the film for the execution, but like I said, other than those sloppy penalties early, I thought we settled down and played pretty decent.
Well, and Ratliff seemed to play well. 0 turnovers. That's always a plus.
That was big. We finally got one on defense. After 7 quarters. Went 7 quarters without a takeaway, which we got to get that solved.
Well, enjoy this one. Congratulations, Coach, and we'll see you down the road this season. Thanks, Kyle.
And we want to congratulate Utah as well. And if you go to Utah when the players are coming out of the locker room, they all slap this sign that says "Do your job." That is Utah's motto. I talked to Coach earlier this week. He said that's all he wanted his players to do their job. 45 unanswered points, 7 possessions. The last 7 they scored on each and every one. Guys, I think it's unanimous here. They did their job.
Yes, they did. And the Cougars also did a job today in Provo. They had Tulsa